America has a tradition of electing people who are ostensibly qualified to be president. Governors and senators, lawyers and generals, and then for the first time we elected a man who prided himself on his lack of relevant qualifications.
I don't sound like a politician because I'm not a politician.
A business owner is in the business of making a product or service.
Why only $5? Why not charge $12, 10 or 12 or 15 or 20?
Because I'm working with farmers and they're not buying one.
Even at $10,000, right? Why not $7?
Well, I've never done that. I've always tried to be right.
But a businessman is in the business of business.
Hello, I like money.
What inspired you to build a second Krusty Krab right next door to the original?
Money!
Of course, that doesn't mean being a wealthy businessman can't be very impressive. It's just not a reason to think that one would make a good politician. In psychology, this is called the halo effect, where it's thought that someone will be virtuous or skilled in other areas based on their proficiency in one area. Michael Jordan's known to be pretty good at basketball, but when he tried to switch to baseball, his performance was beyond horrendous.
That was a strikeout, Mike? That was a good-looking strikeout. Real good.
The difference is that nobody really expected MJ to be good at baseball, because they understand that dunking a basketball and hitting a baseball are very different skills. But in our world where money can be converted into anything valuable, many people think that the ability to get money is the ultimate skill. Perhaps a businessman like Trump would be good at specifically managing America's budget, which would make him a good president. There are three major issues with that. The first is that Trump is not a good businessman. A common left-wing talking point is that Trump bankrupted casinos, and the right snaps back, it can actually be a smart business decision to file for bankruptcy. We don't need to worry about specific business ventures though. Trump is in the business of making money, so we can just look at the return on investment from what he inherited from Fred Trump. According to Trump, he created his wealth from a
Small loan of $1 million.
which is actually very impressive. When we compare it to a safe investment vehicle,
The entire S&P 500, which covers the top 500 publicly traded stocks here in the United States.
$1 million invested in 1975 would be less than $100 million in 2016, nowhere near the over $3 billion net worth that he had in 2016. This quote became a pretty big meme at the time, with people focusing on the absurdity of someone calling $1 million a small loan. To us common folk, $1 million seems unattainable.
As any Pokemon-loving kid could tell you, Pikachu is primarily what color?
I'd like to go ahead and ask the expert.
It's B. It's yellow.
Jay, there's no question in your mind. Your share one.
Don't ask me again!
So no one bothered to ask, is he downplaying the amount he was given? And he's a liar. So he was. People like to make claims like if he'd just invested what his father gave him, he'd have way more. And there is some truth to that sentiment, but that's really hard to accurately quantify and sort of misses the point.
We must stay focused, brothers.
Trump's wealth was not made by getting a big loan and then building an empire all on his own. Fred's fortune worked as a private welfare, keeping Trump afloat the whole way. Don didn't get Trump Tower and his other Manhattan properties by being a great deal maker. He got them because his father had wealth and close ties with bankers that allowed him to get favorable loans for his son. There were also a lot of illegal schemes that Trump's family used to transfer money around but avoid taxes.
See, I understand the tax code better than anybody that's ever run for president.
In 1990, Fred Trump's lawyer went to one of Don's failing casinos and bought about $3.5 million worth of chips, just to leave without gambling at all. I could list a bunch more examples, but
Nah, I don't really feel like it.
Trump's saving grace was The Apprentice.
Yes, I hung up. You didn't get disconnected, I hung up.
In the early 2000s, Trump had tons of mortgages to pay and businesses that were losing money, and he likely would have lost many of them if it weren't for his day job of playing a businessman on TV. It was more so TV reality than reality TV. The businesses were propped up by the perception created by the show. But even if we pretend that Trump is a good businessman, the second issue is that generating money should not be the primary goal of the president. The government exists for the people, and while it is a good long-term goal, paying off some debt isn't going to do anything tangible for most of us. Feel free to disagree because it doesn't matter. Trump clearly doesn't care about the national debt at all, considering he's approved about a fifth of the country's total debt. The final issue with a businessman president is that businessmen don't try to make the greatest business possible.
Where's the love?
They may say that to investors,
Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA.
but their goal is to extract as much value for themselves from their business. Let's compare Trump to Jimmy Carter. Carter was a peanut farmer, and when he came into office, he divested his farm to a blind trust, meaning he legally couldn't know anything about the business's finances. Critics might take issue with that framing, but Carter clearly did not use the presidency to benefit his farm. When he left office, the business was $1 million in debt. Trump ignored the whole blind trust thing and divested his businesses to his immediate family members so he can make sure that his policies help his businesses.
Every time my kids do, if they invest in a stock or if they go and do a bill, anything they do, they have inside information.
Trump also took the lessons he got from turning public perceptions into profit with The Apprentice by creating a cryptocurrency immediately before taking office. Many take issue with Congress members buying and selling individual stocks, and for good reason. Even if just subconsciously, we don't want our lawmakers having a conflict of interest because some law may impact a company that they're invested in. Nancy Pelosi has become a symbol of this issue, but Trump certainly has her beat. Information is limited due to the nature of stock disclosure, but Trump's trades so far this year are at least equal and probably much greater than the value of every Congress member's trades in 2025 combined.
Let's look at some individual trades. Trump purchased up to $1 million worth of NVIDIA stock.
1 week later, his administration changed U.S. policy so that NVIDIA could sell its chips to China.
I think it's incumbent upon both houses of Congress to get their house in order before you move to the administrative branch.
You think it's okay for the president to do this?
Now that we've established that a good businessman doesn't make a good politician, Trump isn't even a good businessman, and running the country like a business means extracting as much value from it as possible, we should address Trump's other claim to fame. He's a builder. He shaped the New York skyline and knows how to jump through the regulatory hurdles of construction. He has an eye for architecture and has the connections to get things built fast and efficiently. Wow. Trump should have campaigned on that. It sounds like a dream come true. One of, if not the issue on the minds of Americans is cost of living, and one of the leading drivers of that issue is housing. Imagine a president who could champion federal policy that prevents states from having highly restrictive zoning laws to boost boomers' property values, or who could partner with governors across the nation using their knowledge from on-the-ground experience with regulatory hurdles of building to accelerate construction across the nation. Trump doesn't really have that grand a view for building out America, though, and he certainly doesn't care about cost of living.
Maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, and maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
You know what I really love? I love the inflation.
Controversial new idea to help with housing affordability, a 50-year mortgage. It comes on the heels of a report from the National Association of Realtors saying the age of a typical new home buyer is now at an all-time high of 40 years old.
I actually like President Trump in general, but this is an absolute bogus political stunt, and he knows it. He's over laughing at you people. It saves you almost nothing, 16%, but you're almost 100% more in debt.
When you make it too easy and too cheap to buy houses, those values come down. I don't want those values to come down.
It actually goes further than that, though. Congress recently passed a housing reform bill to address cost of living with a bipartisan supermajority.
Promises made, promises kept. President Trump made a very important campaign promise on the campaign trail, and we are delivering the 21st Century Road to Housing Act.
What I love about this bill, it's very positive. It's got lots of creative ideas. We're going to cut the red tape around environmental approvals when you're doing infill housing.
Private equity, you got to stay out of the single-family housing market.
Then Trump canceled the signing ceremony and called it
so unimportant by compared to the Save America Act.
He's holding the housing bill hostage until Congress passes the Save America Act, a bill which has the stated goal of keeping non-citizens from voting in federal elections, something which is already illegal and there is no evidence that it happens on a significant scale.
They're cheating on the election.
Do you have evidence to support
that? All I have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
That's not evidence.
And I listen to people. And let's see what happens.
But sir, that's not evidence.
Part of the bill is identity verification via birth certificate. This could create a voting barrier for women who have been married and changed their last name. There are many other theoretical side effects to this bill meant to solve an issue that doesn't meaningfully exist. But the president says it has to be passed if you want your rent to be cheaper.
It's all about common sense.
Trump doesn't care about your rent. And it's not that he's preoccupied with the illegal war he started that's driving up gas prices, or preoccupied with releasing the remaining documents and investigating those implicated in the Epstein files.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? That is Unbelievable.
Or preoccupied negotiating the 90 deals in 90 days promised 450 days ago after he suddenly broke all our trade agreements and drove up prices on goods by imposing import taxes.
And I didn't really like the way she talked to us. And so instead of giving her a reduction, I raised it to 39%.
Or preoccupied with ending the war in Ukraine that he promised would end on day one.
Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much.
All those things are on the back burner.
Big deal. It's a yawn.
He's focused on construction and renovation in Washington, D.C. Not like the city where people live, just specifically the stuff in his immediate surroundings that represent the federal government. He started with a wall of presidential portraits that later got plaques. The plaques weirdly mention him a lot because he's a narcissist. Like the Reagan one says that he was a fan of Trump, even though the only basis for that claim is this meme with a fake quote that got spread around during Trump's first campaign.
Anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American.
Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. Why is it we only take people from whole countries?
He also put up a picture of an auto pen for Biden because he says that Biden didn't actually sign executive orders and it was done by an auto pen.
He's the worst president in the history of our country.
Now I could show you clips of Biden explaining and signing EOs compared to Trump having them explained to him before scribbling zigzags with a Sharpie to indicate that he would in fact like to try to unilaterally change the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, but the whole thing is obviously based on a lie if you just bother to check. The executive orders on record, including Trump's, all have copy-pasted signatures because nobody wants to bother scanning the EOs. There's also just a quantity issue. Even if he could stay awake through it, Trump's hand would be horribly bruised if he had to physically sign off on pardoning 1,500 individual people convicted for the Capitol attack. He's on a massive dose of aspirin to stave off cardiac arrest.
I take the big aspirin, and when you take the big aspirin, they tell you you're bruised.
Back to the construction though, the White House is not the president's house. It's the people's house, and the president gets to live in it like an apartment. We are the landlords, and Congress acts as the superintendent. The last time the White House had major renovations, it was because it was at risk of collapsing. And that's not because the government was doing something wrong. It's because America is a big, powerful country, and there are a lot of complicated issues to tackle.
The American people are tired of women.
So making the president's apartment nicer is not a priority.
But even if you look at the air conditioner vent, that's supposed to be a piece of aluminum or steel. And the marble man said, I said, do you think you could bookmatch your event? He said, yeah, look at the other one over there.
The superintendent, Congress, which is made up of people that Americans got to elect, have to approve major construction projects. And what they tend to do is put together councils of people who can strike a balance between factors like historical preservation, practicality, and cost. But Trump is opposed to the fundamental structure of our government and hired independent contractors to demolish the East Wing. One defense is that Obama put up some basketball hoops on a pre-existing tennis court. He also likes to talk about how he's having donors pay for it.
It's all being done by donors.
Which is not a good thing. I don't think I should have to say this, but if a rich guy walked up to the president and said, hey, I want to give you a bunch of money, that's a bad thing. Like for example, if Qatar gifted Trump a luxury jet and a few months later he gave them security guarantees, an American might be left thinking, I don't even know where Qatar is on a map. I don't want our soldiers dying for them. I wonder if that fancy jet influenced the president's decision at all here. Lawmakers' salaries aren't paid by taxpayers because no one else would do it. It's because we don't want rich people to be able to buy influence.
I was like a senior person at Facebook, could never get a meeting. I only met Obama once when he came to the thing. Then when I was running an investment fund, successful, I had dinner with Obama under the purposes of should I donate to the foundation.
I've donated millions of dollars to Democrats. I've never been to the Oval.
But the minute it's like here, it's like, hey,
come to the White House, explain these issues now.
It's totally different.
Sorry, devil's advocate.
Should being a mega donor...
I mean, I guess I get your point of view, but
couldn't it also just be like,
no, we're not going to be biased just because a person donated money?
If completed as Trump wants, the ballroom will completely dwarf the White House, and there's no real reason why it needs to be part of the building. Trump's reasoning is that the ballroom is part of a more important underground bunker, which also doesn't work because there already are bunkers under the White House, one of which he demolished along with the East Wing, creating the theoretical national security risk, which he is now using to argue why he needs the ballroom. I think he wants a giant ballroom because he likes himself.
I like me.
And he wants his name and image everywhere he can get it.
Purchase 15 or more of my Trump digital trading cards and we'll mail you a beautiful physical trading card. It's really, I think, quite something. Each physical trading card has an authentic piece of my suit that I wore for the presidential debate. And people are calling it the knockout suit. I don't know about that, but that's what they're calling it.
He wants to host big events where he can shake hands with people and give speeches. He wants people to gawk at a big building with big windows, and when someone asks, who built that? The answer will be Trump. If you'd like more evidence of that theory, look no further than the National Cultural Center, which was renamed by Congress to the Kennedy Center after he was assassinated. Then Trump tried to rename it to the Trump Kennedy Center after he hosted an event there. He wanted to rename it because it would make people talk about him, and he really likes when people talk about him. Just like how a baby or a dog likes when you say their name. It's not reasonable adult behavior to name things you had nothing to do with after yourself. Ronald Reagan and JFK airports were named by Congress after they got Alzheimer's and died, respectively. We can also look at Trump putting himself on limited edition US passports with the proposed phrase, welcome, but be good. Which doesn't make any sense because passports are things Americans use to go to other countries. Also, maybe $100 bills with Trump's signature? Oh, and Arc Day Trump. My personal favorite is the reflecting pool because I really like the scene in Avengers when Captain America keeps passing Anthony Mackie.
Don't say it. Don't you say it.
You just lost the left.
Pretty much right after Trump threatened genocide and called the Pope weak on crime, he started a no-bid job where he hired a pool company to paint the water installation in front of the Lincoln Memorial navy blue. Trump said that
you couldn't, if you had a knife, I don't want to give anybody ideas. If you had a knife, you can't even cut it. So strong, so powerful. It's like powerful rubber.
For a tiny fraction of the cost and a tiny fraction of the time, we end up with the most beautiful thing that you'll ever see.
It's sort of a business thing. It's a common sense thing.
Then while the pool coating was still curing, Trump decided to drive his incredibly heavy motorcade of armored SUVs over the length of the reflecting pool for the sake of hype moments and aura. The dark paint is good at absorbing heat from the sun, so it quickly started growing algae, turning the water green. They've also started pouring jugs of peroxide into the water to try and kill the algae. Large sheets of the pool coating have also started peeling off. Then a US Olympian says he thought, it's weird that there's a giant sheet of blue lining floating in the reflecting pool, so he leaned down and touched it. He is being charged with a felony. There are several other people who are facing lesser charges. There is 24/7 cameras pointed at the reflecting pool, and this administration loves to post pictures and videos from ongoing investigations, but they have not released any footage of anyone damaging the pool.
Who would think that somebody would go into a pool and take a knife and start cutting it?
Do you have proof of that? That they used a knife? Do you have photos or videos?
Well, let's put it this way. When you have a 350, I think it's 350, not 250, a 350-foot slit from one end to the other, you think that's proof? You think that's proof?
Reporters have been down there today looking for that slit that you mentioned, and there's no evidence of it.
So I decided to think about it, and I think it's because Trump is the only one who damaged the reflecting pool. He wants to send a message to people who don't like him that he'll prosecute you for making him look bad. And he knows that by the time these charges are dropped, all his supporters will remember is Trump tried to make the reflecting pool great again, and the only reason he failed is because of all the demon rats and rhino Republicans who hate America and are sabotaging him. Even though the reflecting pool has always had algae problems, and so far all Trump has done is made them worse. I'm in Florida right now. The video wasn't even that good. You should probably watch one of my other ones. Stay black, stay gay, stay Jewish.